Welcome back to Generations in Conversation. This episode is for the first week or the first month of 2026. It's here, baby. We made it. You know that week, fresh energy, clean notebooks, very, very bold intentions.
You wake up early, like you've been training for it. Your phone feels a little less addictive. You're staying hydrated, drinking your water. You're planning your day. You're going to the gym. You're hitting your macros. You're saying, this is the year.
This is the year. And how many times, for me, I have said that. How many times, my God? More than 56 times, Well, maybe a little less than that because, when you're that kid, when you're young, maybe you don't sit there and plan a lot, but still there's an excitement about, oh, this is a new year. Then what happens? Real life shows up. You miss a workout. You snap at someone you love. You scroll when you promised you would be asleep. Small slip, another one, and another one.
And then, just suddenly this bright but extremely dangerous phrase, new year, new me, changes its tone and its tune to, oh man, here we go again. Same new year, same decrepit me.
Oh, so you've started beating yourself. Self-flagellation.
Of course.
We've talked about that. Remember, when we started the podcast, it was very interesting. I didn't attend your engagement party. And that morning, I beat myself up. Right? Not really thinking that, well, maybe there's a reason. Right? It wasn't. Yeah, so again, there goes me again. The painful question under all that is not even about habits. This is it. What is wrong with me? And if I keep repeating patterns, am I beyond repair?
Those are indeed the questions that subconsciously or even consciously we ask ourselves. But today is going to be different. Today we are interrupting that story, if not deleting it off of every single drive and throwing it in the trash. And we're replacing that not with hype, but with something, I think, more grounded, more stable, more consistent, and ultimately healthier.
Well, this episode is, we can call it the honest reset. Because there's nothing wrong with hitting the reset button, right? You say, okay, I didn't do very well, but I'm going to start again. We are not starting the year by declaring war on ourselves. We're starting the year by learning. You are not a clean slate. Remember, what stays? What changes? This episode is how to begin a new year without erasing yourself or the temptation to.
And the temptation is strong. And we've been discussing this, but every January, every start to the year, there's a cultural script that we, like to play back, and it's erase last year, delete the old me, reinvent the wheel, reinvent everything from the ground up, foundation and all. And truly that just doesn't work. It's something that we have subscribed to, that we didn't even purchase ourselves.
So, erase, delete, reinvent. Right? Sounds very hopeful. But it teaches something very, very harsh. That the you who struggled is unacceptable. The you that struggled is not enough. The you that struggled is a horrible, horrible person who has no intrinsic value. That you needs to be completely deleted, erased, at best reinvented.
And the big problem that we run into is when you accept that story, when I've accepted that story, the moment you behave like a human being, a normal person, rising and falling, climbing and then tripping, taking the ladder and then getting the snake, and getting back to point one. You treat it as a validation, as proof that, yeah, I failed. I've done it again. There's no hope for me. It's over. We wait again until 2027. We try again.
Right. So the real damage is not missing a habit then, right? The damage is turning one missed goal, one missed intention, one missed habit into an identity sentence. This is me, the failure. This is me, the worthless. This is me, the one who cannot keep promises to myself. I knew it. So you really identify yourself with those words. Very, very damaging. And identity is interesting. Oh, we have multiple identities. When I was born, I was given a name. And my first name was Gitonga. It's not even the other names, right? I was given that name. And that became an identity. And I was somebody's son. That became my identity. I had a dad, and I had a mom, and I had brothers and sisters. We had a family. That became my identity, right? And then I continue to pile on these identities, and you do, everybody does, right? Either through sort of way of identifying yourself with certain things, or other ascribed identities. Oh, but you look like so-and-so. Oh, you behave like so-and-so. You're like your namesake, right? All the, then, I was in school, I became a student. That became my identity, right? Then I graduated from university. It became my identity. I got married. I call you Mr. Tirima now. I have to be careful. How it is that I identify you. Sorry, we get, identities are very, very interesting. In part because they can determine a lot. Then Tari came, and Makena came, I became a father. My identity for life. That will never change, right? And am I glad that the two of you are little parts of my heart walking around the earth. It's how it is. So, but there's a lot of identities that are ascribed to you, but also those that you ascribe yourself. Those can be very dangerous, or they can be actually very helpful, depending on what identity you want to latch on.
Yeah, and we need identity. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but it is a necessity. It can be both. And the pain with this is that it is a clean slate. This clean slate fantasy is that it's emotionally seductive, emotionally reductive. It gives you an escape to kick this down the road, or it makes it very binary, a 0 and a 1, black and white. No examination, no discomfort, no truth, really, no grace. You just, boom, push the button, wipe it all, and start again.
You said discomfort. We are so averse to the idea of discomfort. But the longer I have lived, the more I've realized that comfort is our enemy. I'll illustrate this. Look, sometimes I will hold certain thoughts and sit with certain thoughts because this is what I'm familiar with. This is what I'm comfortable with. Even if those thoughts are damaging. Better the devil you know. Right? So you're comfortable because you're familiar with that. Right? If I do not get off my fundament and go and do exercise, if I just want to be comfortable and sleep in my bed and enjoy myself, I will pay for it. We have to be very careful. Thanks for bringing that up, because we can very quickly become victims of our own comfort. And comfort, again, isn't our friend. In fact, the only way you grow is through discomfort. But we ascribe this negativity to this discomfort. Oh, I have to do this. But let me ask you, how do you feel when you have accomplished something, that you have really exerted yourself and you've accomplished something?
Oh, it's bliss.
How do you feel when you've gone and spent money, how do you feel later?
Oh, horrible. I mean, look at anybody who's won the lottery, in fact, and how their lives look before and after the fact. Comfort is dangerous.
And this seduction of this, okay, I'm going to clean my slate, right? This simplistic, okay, I'm going to wipe it, right? Is also a form of comfort. We're trying to really not address the underlying maybe factors that place us where we are. Where did these habits come from? We interrogating those habits, is not a comfortable thing. But life is not a laptop or your iPad that you're holding. You cannot factory reset your nervous system. It is not possible. We know this. Your patterns, your pain, your childhood, your relationships. It's not that easy. You can't say, okay, now reset, right? Now I'm going to hit that button and behold, everything will be okay.
So, what do we want to do? We want a different frame.
Hmm.
This frame is not a clean slate. It's an honest slate. Something that allows for the grace, allows for the discomfort, allows for progress, for our nervous system, our patterns, our relationships to be looked at, not with an eye of perfection or self-flagellation, but with hope for this new season of life that we are going into and this new year that we're going into.
Not a clean slate, but an honest slate. It's interesting. What do you think about honesty? Honesty is not comfortable.
No?
Yeah, I want to escape reality by lying to myself or lying maybe even to others, right? Because that's an easier way.
Mm-hmm.
But is it helpful?
No.
Does it serve the person you would like to be? No. In fact, it sabotages the very things that you aspire to be.
It actually makes me think of a conversation we were having just recently on being nice and being kind.
Mm-hmm.
And a clean slate is a very nice thing. But niceness ultimately is a manipulation. Kindness is based on truth, it's based on honesty, which is very uncomfortable. But ultimately, it moves you forward. Niceness is like a sinkhole. You can build everything you want on top of it, but one day, that thread will be pulled and it all falls apart.
Because it's not honest, because it's not truthful, because it's not rigorous.
It's not based on reality.
It's based on fantasy. Right? So an honest slate does not shame the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a total sum of my past and where I am now. In fact, some of those parts of my past have enabled me to be where I am today. In fact, even some of the negative things that was terrible. Somebody told me, and it stopped me in my tracks. Simba, please do not waste your mistakes. Please do not waste your suffering. There's a treasure trove that actually can fuel you along the way, because those are lessons learned. Those are experiences. That's a crucible that has refined and continues to refine you. Right? So, again, an honest slate does not shame the past. What does it do?
Studies it.
The past is data. So, here is a line we want to give you early. It's not a verdict, it is data.
And we can,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and we can think about when something didn't go the way you wanted, which, being alive and being a human, that is quite often. That doesn't mean that you are broken or you're a failure or you don't have what it takes or that you lack the intrinsic value to get to where you want to go. It just means something happened and as you did, your system responded. Was simply a response.
You said you're not broken, right? Okay, we're just coming off of this Christmas season, and there's a lot of controversy about Christmas Day and things like this. I don't dwell on that stuff. It is what it is, and people get together. In fact, I had a privilege of hanging out with my 93-year-old dad over Christmas, which was actually it's a singular privilege. But let's for a moment. I think this thing that you bring up, being broken, and the idea that comes from a version of Christianity that says, "Oh, we are worthless." You really beat yourself up. Look at me. Oh, I am a sinner. I am all these things. We dwell there. But if you believe in the story of Christmas, basically God sending his own son to come and meet us where we are. And I think the word redemption is used a lot of times, right? I'm not a theologian. We have this disclaimer, so please, you don't come and beat us. But we're just looking at this. How would it then be that this God comes to redeem something that is not valuable? You do not redeem anything that's not valuable. You redeem value. So our intrinsic value is not in question and has never been in question. Right? So you're not this broken thing that needs to be fixed all the time. You're not a car. Sorry. We like cars, and very soon you'll have a project that you'll be working on. Maybe later on you can tell the folk, you will have a very old car.
Another one.
Oh, yeah, good. Right? But you're not that.
No.
Right? So, in Kenya, we say someone is undisciplined very quickly. Where we? And we use oh my good, some of the languages we have is so dismissive and so demeaning and so,
reductive.
Yes, right? You're reduced to this, we're bure. You're useless. We do it so quickly. Or, that guy's a weak guy, or, you're lazy. But that language is not analysis. It's a sentence. We sentence people, right? To this prison. We sentence our children by the way we speak to them. You will amount to nothing. And that is baked into their nervous system. We say, oh, you'll never complete any tasks. Oh, you're like your mother, or you're like your father, or you're like, or your grandpa, or whoever did this to us. I see those characteristics in you. We have sentences, and that gets baked into people. Words matter. Right? And I often, and I've heard this now in different versions, so it's not necessarily my original. Anyway, is there anything original?
That's a long question.
So, I've never seen anybody who has very nice plants having shouted at them to grow better. What do? You nourish them. You remove the weeds. You add fertilizer or nourish. You give your plants water. We have to be very careful. And unfortunately, we sentence ourselves as well. Be careful. Your mind is listening. What you're saying, your brain is baking it into your nervous system.
No, it's you use the word sentence, and I'd like to take it even further to, it's not only a sentence, but it actually can become a curse.
Ooh.
where it gets so deep into your nervous system. It is now source code, and you can't shake it. You can't think around it. You can't get out of it. Why? Because it's that deep, and it's not even conscious most of the time. And I think you're completely right. We have very harsh and dangerous language that we use quite casually, in fact, and quite quickly. But we have something different. And what is that? That's data. Data is very different because instead of a sentence or a curse, it spurs on a question. It asks us, what conditions do I thrive in? What conditions do I collapse? Where are my triggers? What are they? And what brings stability? What brings confidence? What damages it? What brings shame and guilt? And what addresses this shame and guilt that I can come out of and go further?
I'm going to be very vulnerable over here, and I'm going to ask you a question. You can say it. When do you remember I have said words to you that were a sentence or the way you describe? Because I think we can sit here and pontificate. But for me and for you, the way we converse is we bring this to reality. Because if I heal myself, if you heal yourself, we heal our generations. So from time to time, publicly, because this will be listened to by thousands of people. Oh my God. Yes. But do you remember a time when I said a word to you that was sort of a sentence?
You're taking me back now.
Huh?
And I can't think of actually a time when I was at fault initially, and we often use somebody else being at fault as an excuse to then pile on abuse. I believe I was quite rude to my mother. I said something that was not very nice. I can't remember exactly the words you used, which normally that's what happens, but the feeling I remember, because you were unhappy. You were not happy at all. Like, I could see it in the face, the way you walked in. I just said, oh, problem.
I'm going to get murdered.
I'm done. I'm finished. And I remember the feeling that I was left with in that was, oh, I'm a terrible son. In fact, why am I even in this house? Why should I be here?
Oh, wow.
And I think that is one of those times where I was like, oh, and that was a little deposit into the doubt bank. Or
wow. And that those are hard things, to look back. And I don't maybe even recall exactly. But yeah, I'm truly sorry for that. Because, and I cannot use the excuse that I did not know better. No. And, we're here to do an honest reset, right? And from time to time, in our conversations, I think we'll make people uncomfortable because we share very deep kinds of things, that deep wounds. And you said something so profound. You don't remember the exact words, but you remember how you felt. Whew. That is heavy. You remember how and then you proceeded to say that was a deposit in the doubt bank. Well, we're here. What stays? What changes? Right? We cannot forget. This is where we're here. But I truly, I truly am sorry, because knowing what I know now. Oh, but here we are. But you're here, right?
And we're grateful to be here.
So your questions are very interesting. What causes me to thrive? What causes me to collapse? What causes or what triggers me? And what are my stabilizers? You're a car guy. If you don't have stabilizers, what happens?
Oh man, you turn left and the car will go.
It'll go completely. Yeah, right?
No, I mean, that's. I was driving the Peugeot the other day, right before it threw its torque tube.
Oh.
And we're going around a bend. This is an old car, so 1980s, and I'm just steering, and I can feel, oh, I'm going right. Something's broken because as I go right, the weight shifts, and then it shifts back and it wants to go left. And a lot of the time, and it just made me think, what is it in my life right now where I'm applying a force this way, but the internal force or a different force from a different part of me wants me to go the opposite way into incoming traffic?
That is perfect analogy, really. Right? You have all these forces. But when we start asking those questions, we are scientists. In the sense that we don't rely on one observation to make all these conclusions about a phenomenon. We interrogate that. We look at the various aspects. We look at data, and this is how we ask questions more than we give answers. Actually, and you being the human prompter, and I remember your endless questions. I'll never forget that. So, and it is also how, let me say, wise humans think or change. A wise person changes their mind. If I'm stuck in my identity, I am a failure, or I am broken, or whatever the identities we give to ourselves and give to others. If we get stuck there, then we don't live fully. We'll never truly appreciate what life is all about and what life has to offer. Because life can offer a lot of things. Our judgments get clouded, and it's interesting that I see the world as I am. So even if you're not angry at me, if I'm angry at myself, if I think I'm broken, I'll see you as broken. Or sometimes I'll see, oh, that's a perfect person, which is actually also as harmful when we project all that.
True. So let's change that script. Instead of I failed, we can take this scientific method and thinking and ask, what changed in my environment, my stress, my sleep, my relationships, my workload, my actions? We can flip that. Instead of giving ourselves a sentence or a curse, instead of locking our identity and making it unchangeable, immutable, we can open up to a very high level of discomfort and ask these questions.
I have a question for you. Okay. Because you bring these things up, like my workload, right? When you have a heavy workload, are you able to do the things that you would like to do? I mean, and you have to, you're bored. For example, is demanding this, you have these tight deadlines, you have to deliver this. Are you able to accomplish everything?
I mean, I've been given the same 24 hours in a day that you have, and those hours go by fast, and it's easy, or especially for me, I get locked in. I mean, there was periods where I'd be up at 7 and down by 3. I think the only times I would stop is to eat. Maybe when things were good, I would go to the gym in the morning, but apart from that, you're, parked at the desk, just doing what needs to be done.
But so sometimes then we forget actually even to interrogate our schedules and say, maybe my workload is too much. You're right.
Yeah.
We have a time budget.
Yeah. And
How many minutes do we have in a day? Maybe 900. Well, you do a simple calculation: 24 hours times 60, right? Yes.
yeah.
How many hours? I mean, so how many minutes? We all have the same minutes, but if those minutes are occupied, and you beat yourself for not going to the gym, without interrogating, asking, is my workload too much? I mean, these questions that you ask, I think are critical. You investigate your environment. What changed? What actually led me to miss?
I mean, yeah, one of the biggest ones that I see I had for a very long time is sleep. I did not sleep. A good night for me was 5 hours. And I get everybody's different in terms of how much sleep they need, but I see that more and more with friends, even with family members, where you can see something is off kilter. And one of the first questions now that I ever ask is, how's your sleep? What's your sleep hygiene like? Are you going to bed at the right time? Are you getting up when your body needs you to get up? Have you paid those debts? Not that you can reclaim the lost sleep per se, but have you reset your rhythms? Because if you're not sleeping well, it's going to be hard for any other aspect of your life to go well, because that's when we heal, that's when we clean, that's when we have our resets. Not a clean slate, but that's when your body does the work to reset.
Somebody told me the trifecta of maybe a healthy life goes like this in order: sleep, what you eat, movement. Right? Not everybody has that luxury, because there are people who do shift work.
Yeah.
There are people who live in environments that are so disruptive, it's hard to sleep. So we're not here just to say no, but a majority of the people actually have environments where they can sleep, but we don't. And now we know, there are very few humans who are like that, who need less than 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Very less than somebody said less than 2% of humans who can go. Yeah. So and when we don't sleep, and we'll be talking about these things in our episodes that will come, and what you've started to mention in terms of your body resetting, your body cleaning itself during that sleep. Then what you eat, and then the foundation of that you can have a three-legged stool, but if you don't have something to sit on, the legs will poke you. So you need that thing that you sit on is stress. That can actually undo the unity, the trifecta, completely. We'll talk about that, but later. You started it. Instead of I have no willpower, we maybe ought to ask, where do I get overwhelmed? You have a new website, and actually you talked about the potential for people to get overwhelmed, and maybe you can describe that a little bit. It's good for us to hear a little bit about it. It's fine. What need am I trying to meet in a helpful way, right?
Yeah. I think going on that and what came about to get to this website is really not making excuses, but finding clarity. And this is a side project I did because our family does something called the 12 cycles or a life cycle. And it's 12 areas of your life. You can give yourself a score, but you more importantly have a premise, a purpose, a vision, and a strategy. Also, we add verses from the Bible that kind of help anchor these. And over those 3 or 12, rather, areas of life, you dissect, okay, what is this area of life for me? Whether that's your career, your emotional life, your relationships, your parenting and siblings, your life vision, your quality of life. What is this for? Why do I have it? Then, or the baseline of it. Then the purpose. What is this for? Why do I have this? Why is it important? And then a vision of what does it look like for me to have this in a place that's healthy, that is growing me, that is also maintainable. Where would I want to be in my career, say, or where would I want to be in my emotional life? What does that success look like? And then the strategy. How do I get there? What are the actions that I'm taking? What are the things that I'm reviewing? The habits that I'm keeping, the habits that I'm dropping. And that really can be overwhelming because it's 12 areas. If you haven't thought about it before, it can take you a day or two to really fill out.
Even more than that.
Yeah, even more than that, to really digest. But the point of that is, again, to ask yourself these questions, to really look through, not with an eye of judgment or perfection or self-flatulation, which is a very big risk with these kinds of exercises.
Yes.
But rather one of grace, of love, of kindness, which is ultimately based on truth. And that is, I can tell you, I went through it with Jasmine this year for the first time. It is uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. But the results of it, and doing that for the past, I think, 4 years, I've seen where my life cycle started. And at times I'll even reset my scores and say, actually, I got to a 9, but that was for that phase. There's a next phase. I can reset. Not saying that I've taken a step back, but there's further to go. There's a new level of this thing for me to now take up, to challenge, to grow in. And I can see from where I started, I had a lot of 2s and 3s. Our relationship, when it came to the parenting section, at some points were a 2 or a 3. And I can now as well look back on that, help defeat my negativity bias a little bit, and say, okay, we've made progress. We're not perfect. But this thing that I was struggling with, this challenge, this problem, I asked myself the questions. I developed a strategy, and I was held accountable by some of the people around me. And look at where I am now.
There's something you mentioned that's very interesting, and thanks for sharing that. And at the end of our podcast notes, we'll have a list of questions that will help you feel less overwhelmed. It's just questions that you can ask yourself on a regular basis to check in with yourself. But you bring up some interesting idea for me that when we start maybe on this journey, actually sometimes we don't even realize that we're growing. We might still think we are at a 2. But what are those things, or those milestones, or those signs that actually show you that you're growing? Because again, it's easy. Negativity bias is there. Self-flagellation is there. Maybe building our houses in the past is there. But when and how do you determine that actually you're moving forward? And I think something like this would be interesting, and not as an exercise that is done once, but it's something that you revisit from time to time to celebrate your progress. Because the point is not just to travail and toil, but also to have moments of fist bumps. You know, we can look at our relationship. We talk about things now that we couldn't have spoken about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We had this wonderful Nigerian trip, and you saw sides of me as well in real-time stress levels. You too, because this is not for the faint-hearted what we pulled off. That's a story for another day.
Indeed.
Right? Yeah, but it's very interesting. I mean, so, and you talked of clarity in kindness. I was at a seminar in Luxembourg recently. Well, I was facilitating a workshop. And there's this lady, her name is Chloe. She said something so profound. She said, clarity is kindness. It stopped me in my tracks. Clarity is kindness. I said, okay, say that again. And she didn't understand, maybe, or even fathom the profundity with which this hit me. Clarity is kindness. When I'm jabbering on, when I'm speaking just nonstop, and filling the air with these words, maybe I'm being unkind. Maybe in the sense that I am listening to myself, right? And I don't recognize that you're here, sitting right across me. So if I can pause and ask, what am I really saying? There's something that's so powerful. And then we digress all the time, but we'll come back. Don't worry. This is we.
This is how we do it. Talkers without borders.
Talkers. Oh my God. There we go. Right? Yeah. There's something that is so powerful about clarity. That when we seek clarity, we also put ourselves in this uncomfortable space. Because now you're getting rid of the things that make you feel comfortable in whatever, and you're asking. And there's something that I'm asking myself over and over again, even as I engage in conversation with anybody. Why am I here? Why am I having this conversation? Right? Is it that I want to vent? Is it that I want to overwhelm this person? Why am I here? And that, this is kindness, because it causes me to pause and to listen to you as if you're the only person here. I will not touch my phone now when I'm talking to somebody. I can miss a phone call. It's fine. But that has taken time. So let's very quickly, clarity and kindness. Clarity learns. It puts you in a learning environment, yes, or learning mode.
It's discovery.
Yes.
And Yeah, the other side of that, which is shame, it hides. And you asked a really interesting question: is how do we measure? How do we keep track of where we go? And something that did come to mind was actually that issue of our shame and our identity. It's very difficult for me to see how far I've come if I am still so attached to the parts that make up my identity that I'm trying to change. If I shame myself, if I'm guilty with myself, which I like to be quite rough, I'm naturally quite rough.
I'm raising my hand.
Yes, I'm naturally quite rough. But if I, release those bits of my identity and bring in that clarity, then moving forward is actually not as difficult. It's much more palatable to say, oh yeah, I was here, but now I've gone forward. Or in many instances, in moving forward here, one or two things I may have left behind or taken a step back. But I'm not sentencing myself to that position, to that behavior, to that habit. I'm not putting a curse on my neurological system saying, now, brain, one of the greatest computers that we've ever come across and that we're striving to replace. And we'll get into that a little later as well.
Yeah.
But brain, you are now this. This is your directive. This is who you are. It'll take that command.
Yes.
It's like going into a terminal and writing sudo, which is, the highest administrator root, the highest administrator access, and
Now you're
sending
nerding
a
out.
command.
Huh? You're nerding out.
I'm a little bit.
Good.
Yeah.
I like it.
And that will then be how every other operation that comes will stem and base off that. But if you take on this clarity, take on a learning environment, release the shame and the guilt, and unlock your identity. It's not it's not set in stone. It's not written in stone.
I like that. Unlock.
Yes, we've locked it. We put it behind a padlock and everything, and said, "Yeah, like the 10 Commandments that came down. My identity has come down from the mountain, and this is what it is and how it will be, now and forever."
Very good.
So, let's take another step. Let's go deeper, and I'm gonna ask you to put your imagination caps on, your creativity caps on, and put yourself in a room. And in this room, there's nothing yet, but I want for you to start inviting the versions of yourself from last year.
Wow.
And fill the room up with those versions. If it has nice seats, that's okay. If it's Spartan, that's okay. But bring each version into this room.
The you that showed up strong. The you that disappeared. The you that loved well. The you that shut down. The you that overworked. The you that avoided a hard conversation. The you that prayed. The you that numbed out.
And now ask this question. Which of these many versions of you sitting in this room with you are you trying not to make eye contact with? Are you being avoiding of, subversive of, kind of trying to dodge?
And this analogy is excellent. And it actually dovetails very well with your lock, unlock. Where you lock, you want to keep it there. Somebody told me not too long ago that the thing that you run away from pursues you even more. I have no incentive to run after something that's not running away from me. Why are you? I'm going to chase something that's running away from me, right? So if I'm running away from something, it'll always, right?
Yeah.
And that question, which version are you trying not to make eye contact with? The one that you're trying to avoid is very powerful. Most people exile parts of themselves. You put it on this island. You force it to get out of your sight. But it's still there. Even if it's on an island. That island is still a part of you, sorry. Right? They throw a version of themselves out of the house and say, never again. We've said that after the genocide that happened in the 1940s. We said never again. Never again. Those famous last words. Here we are.
And that is the thing. Those exiled parts do not disappear. They go underground or offshore or under, the surface. But when there's pressure, and boy is there ever pressure, it rises. It reminds me of the story of the dragon that lived in the little suburban house. And everybody ignored this dragon. And day by day, week by week, it grew a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. So the house was rearranged to, make sure that it doesn't knock over all the glasses and the plates. And, people can still get around, but they ignored it and just adjusted around it until eventually it got big enough that its wings went out to each end of the house and it began to fly. And it took off. And now it was a big problem. And what did the family do? They addressed the dragon. And they spoke to it. And boom, it shrunk back down to the size that it was. And that's what we try and do. We try and exile that version of ourselves, so that part of ourselves. And the sad thing is it doesn't disappear. It doesn't go away. Your neurological system hasn't wiped it clean. And oftentimes, not only does it run after you, but it grows and it grows. And without addressing it, it will get to a point where it's either you address it or you're flown off to Timbuktu.
Oh my. Actually, this brings a lot of things to mind, my own life experience. I used to like my drink. And I'm not a prude. I'm not here to tell people don't drink, it's never, ever a part of how I look at, let me say never, but I don't look at it that way. But for me, it became a problem at one time. But I said it was not a problem. Oh, I can handle this. I'm in control. I remember one time, and I like to talk about these things because maybe there's somebody with whom this can resonate, right? And now I'm an old man, and I can say things. What are you going to do? I'm just kidding. Anyway, in one time, actually, I developed such a high tolerance for this stuff. On one Saturday, I drank a whole bottle of whiskey, and I started another one. And I went to sleep, and I woke up the next day, and I'd left some in my. I left my. What do you call those jars? The
mason jars.
Mason jars, yes, the ones with a lid. I'd put it next to my bed, so I woke up the next morning, reached out, In Kenya here, we say to remove the airlock, right? And I reached for it. And as I brought it close to my mouth and my nose, and I could smell it, I don't know where that moment of reckoning came from. I said, this is a problem. And just like that dragon that had grown because I exiled it, it started shrinking. When I said, this is a problem. When I looked it in the eye and I said, the next question was this: is this all there is in this life? Several years later, I've not had a desire to even have a single drink. And I'm not here to tell people, don't, no. That's not the point. It's to say that I ignored that. I mean, your analogy is so powerful, right? Because this thing grew and grew and grew and grew, and probably eventually would have killed me young, right? And I would have missed going to Nigeria with you.
I don't think I would have been able to go if you weren't there, to be honest.
Yeah, I would have missed that we had. This is a podcast. The Nigeria trip is a podcast on its own. Because it tested our mettle. Not to say the Nigerians are bad, but they are wonderful people. I mean, great human beings. But you've got to be prepared. And, again, this is where change becomes spiritual physiological. You talked about this nervous system that, in this coding. You're a coder, so I liked it. And it becomes very practical. You need to approve of every choice that you make because it's a choice. You need to stop treating parts of you like trash.
And that practical bit is actually really a rather simple question. We're in this room with all the versions and ask, what was that version of me trying to do for me? Why were you here?
The version that overworked might have been trying to keep you safe, because that's where you derive your self-worth. The version that scrolled might have been trying to quiet your thoughts and your anxiety. The version that avoided conflict might have been trying to preserve belonging.
And you actually told me this once, and it really did stick with me when you were overcoming your alcohol problem, which was asking that the alcohol itself, but even the version of you can ask this question: what was your purpose? Why are you here? Even how you start your conversations. What am I here for? And those strategies that those versions of you had might not have been the best strategies, but the intention underneath might have been to protect, to shield, to comfort you.
And when you see that, you can say, I hear what you wanted. You wanted to comfort me. You wanted to quieten my anxiety. That 6-year-old who felt insecure, you wanted to provide security. Right? But let's find a more useful way. Let us find a better way.
And this is a really big theme of our podcast. You do not, and I do not, build a good life by rejecting myself. I build a life by integrating.
Yes, let us bring this home. Kenya is beautiful, but the pressure is real. The cost of living, responsibilities, extended family needs, the so called hustle culture. It's very interesting that alarms have been raised about the suicide rates amongst young people in, say, Nairobi. It is so high. We are very, very concerned. What is it? You know, we can't hide from this any longer, or we cannot declare that it does not exist. This is the dragon you're talking about.
And there's additional things that we've layered on top of it. We have a digital lens or a digital layer where you're not only just living your own life, but you're also constantly bombarded with information from everybody else's life on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, WhatsApp even. And yeah, that is a massive cognitive load that you might not think we're carrying or you're carrying, but it is there and it is being carried.
Then faith enters, and it can help. Or faith can harm, depending on how it is taught.
Yeah.
If we are taught that we are vile, repugnant, worthless, of no value, then that faith harms. If we are taught other people are less because I have this religion, you don't have this religion, mine is superior to yours, then that harms as well.
Indeed. Many people carry a quiet guilt that if my faith was stronger, then I wouldn't be struggling. And that's heavy. That's hard to hear because, you know, there's no life without struggle. So off the bat, you're already harming yourself with that thought process.
And if you look at scriptures, not only the Christian text, almost every ancient text is full of humans who struggled, doubted, failed, returned, and still walked forward. The call is this: rise up and walk. The scriptures are not a museum of perfect people. In fact, all these texts are filled with people who should have given up.
Indeed.
But they didn't. What is faith? It's a hope of things not seen. Evidence of this. What does it say? I know the plans I have for you, to give you a future and a hope.
And I've seen this in our own family story where we are learning something simpler, that repair is possible. If you told me 4 years ago that I would be sitting here having this conversation with you, I'd have probably laughed. Growth is possible, that we're able to walk together and go further than where we were before. That thing that was seemingly an immovable anchor locking my identity down has been released. And not pretending that the past never happened, but facing it without hatred, without shame, without guilt, and really with kindness, honesty, truth, and more and more love.
Oh, wow. Third World asked this question in one song, the band, Third World. Now that we've found love, what are we going to do with it? Actually, I never ever thought about that. You just said this now, and I thought, yes, you can find love. What are you going to do with it? You have to do something with it. It's an active word. It's not a fantasy. This is what we mean by hopeful stories for each season of life. Again, it's not fantasy, but it's radical hope. And we're not afraid of hope. Because sometimes we're afraid of hope because we think hope will disappoint. That's a story for another day.
So, let's get on to a simple ritual. You can do this in 10 minutes, 40 minutes. You can spend the whole day alone or with someone you trust. And I highly recommend that you do this with somebody you trust, because to be loved is to be known and to know. We were not put here to be islands, but to be together. And yeah, it's really a blessing and a privilege to have the opportunity to be completely honest and safe. So this is not about performance, but this is about progress.
If you're driving, just listen now and do it later. If you're seated, grab a notebook or your notes app.
All right, let's begin. Prompt 1. What did I attempt this year? This is not the public goals only, but the quiet hopes too. I wanted to feel less anxious. I wanted to be more present. I wanted to rebuild this relationship.
Prompt 2. Where did I feel the friction? 3 to 5 moments where you felt stuck. No story yet, just list them.
Prompt 3. For each friction point, ask, what might this be trying to tell me about my limits, my stress, my unmet needs, my environment, my beliefs?
Prompt 4. What did this reveal about what matters to me? Regret sometimes reveals values. Pain reveals priorities.
Prompt 5. What part of me do I want to carry into the new year? This is not perfection. A part. Courage, tenderness, persistence, honesty, faith, curiosity.
Now we land it with 2 January choices. Keep them small and real.
Choice 1. One practice that supports your nervous system. Sleeping window, walks, breath prayer, gym, music, time outside, a change of eating habits.
Choice 2. One boundary that protects your life. A limit on work hours, a no phone hour, a weekly check-in with someone you love.
That is the honest reset. You are not reinventing yourself overnight. You are adjusting the conditions under which you live. With this change in conditions, review these points and review what effect these changes have made to your life after doing it for a month or so.
Yeah, and as you read the scriptures, the texts, do it with open hands. We're not here to coerce belief, right? Or to force belief. We're here to learn.
And still, for you who hold the faith, Romans 12:2 has been central to our episodes and central to my life as well. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Renewing the mind is not denial. It's not saying the dragon is not there, right? It's not pretending last year never happened. It happened. It is actually choosing a different frame. You talked about let us reframe, right? Data, not verdict. So my history, my past is data, is not a verdict, is not a sentence.
It's not a curse.
It's aha. And I love that. It's not a curse. Learning and not self-attack. Not declaring war on yourself.
And renewal is very often slow. It looks like repetition. It looks like returning. It looks like being uncomfortable for a while.
Here is maybe a line that you can carry into the new year, the 2026. Think about it. You probably do not need a new life. It is not possible actually to have a new life, unless you die and you come back, right? You need a truer way of living the life you already have. Remember, in our last episode, we said this is not a rehearsal. Life is not a rehearsal, right? We are here.
If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Do not start your year by rejecting the person who survived the last one.
Start with honesty, then a direction. And if you are a bit unstable because your stabilizers have been impacted a certain way and the vehicle is steering you into the oncoming traffic, restabilize. Then practice. Then absolutely irresponsible community. You, me, everyone needs community. Sometimes we talk of communication. Communication comes from community. Being able to understand each other. Right? That is absolutely your linchpin.
And we are also relying on you, our listeners, to help shape this podcast. Tell us, what are you wrestling with this season? What is your new direction? How are you practicing that? And how are you engaging with your communities?
Right. And I think, well, at one time we have to stop, right? It's been really wonderful hanging out with you, and no matter where you're listening from, right? This to us is something that is so passionate, something that is so deeply honest that we share. And in our next episode, we'll circle back a little bit because the question of still being humans in the age of machines. In Tari, you alluded to something earlier that we are creating our replacers, right? Before, historically, humans have created tools for us to use. Now, what we're creating is something different. It's not just a tool. It's something like us. We need to circle back. In the recent days, there has been a lot of changes. Whether you're talking about the various platforms, various AI platforms, but also the thinking, also the geopolitical competition when it comes to this. There are many things really that are changing in our landscape. Again, what we are familiar with in terms of our jobs, our relationships, everything else. And you said there's a layer that we are adding. This is not just a layer. It's something profoundly different. And we will circle back to what that means for us.
Yes, this is Generations in Conversation. What stays, what changes. Hopeful stories for each season of life.